And now to our first conversation. Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, ranks third in the continent in vehicle manufacturing after South Africa and Morocco. See, data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows the value of imports of used vehicles reached 728 billion naira, up 708% in the second quarter of 2023 compared to the same period in 2022. Now, let's discuss the potential for made-in-Nigeria cars. Joining us for this conversation now is Ajayi Oluwatobi, Chairman, CEO, Nord Automobiles Limited, joining me right here in the studio. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so it seems everyone seems to be fighting for your industry. You know, at this time, we're seeing,
nice to see.
Yeah, a lot of vehicle purchases coming up, you know, for the government. And, yeah, we heard from Senator Sunday Karimi last month, you know, on Politics Today. He did talk about, you know, durability and costs. Let's take a moment now to listen to that, what he had to say on Politics Today. Take a listen.
As time goes on, is that patriotism?
As time goes on.
You swore to be patriotic to Nigeria. Is that patriotism, Senator?
At the same time,
if you are doing this for Nigeria, for the purpose, for lawmaking of Nigerian laws, for Nigerian people, and you're buying almost 500 vehicles, and you're patronizing, you're taking Nigerian money outside of this country, is that patriotism, Senator?
I've just said something, Shion, that as we develop in terms of quality and all that, we are going to patronize Nigerian.
Yeah, so there you have it from Senator Karimi there. It says as quality, he's talking about quality there, durability, and also price of Nigerian-made vehicles. And I'm wondering, how do you prove durability of cars made in Nigeria? You're a manufacturer.
So it's sad. I made some tweets some weeks ago about this. It's really very discouraging to see something like that coming from our own senator. But for quality, I've already said it, and a lot of our customers in Nord can testify to this. That question is solved. The quality of question should not be a problem. I can agree when you talk about maybe brand equity and the rest, but quality is fine. Because, okay, how do you get a vehicle, a very good vehicle, quality vehicle? How do you make a quality vehicle? There are three major things. Number one is the quality of the individual components and parts used in making that vehicle. One, that's the quality of the brake discs, the suspension, the transmission, the engine. Two, the production process. Three, the quality of the people. How experienced are they? How much expertise do they have? Now, for this, the production process and the people, we've solved this because, like the auto industry is an industry that is over 100 years old. The technology is not new, and it's decentralized already. If you have the demand, you have the capital, you can actually get the best production process and the people. Now, I'm talking about the parts, the quality of parts. We get our parts from some of the best and biggest OEMs anywhere in the world. So your biggest brands, your most popular brands, actually get their parts from the same places we get our parts. So you are going to get the same thing. If I buy engine from this place, you buy engine from the same place, you're going to get the same performance and quality from that engine. And these are the things that we bring together to make the vehicle. So our vehicles, and our customers can actually testify to this. We have some of the biggest customers. We have our vehicles in the transport industry doing 20,000 kilometers every month. We have vehicles that have done 20,000 kilometers every month for more than 3 years. They're still on the road. You can ask transporters.
But one thing I've noticed, you know, definitely, you know, the federal government is required to lead, you know, when it comes to, you know, buying Nigeria. It'd be nice to see that. But the average Nigerian has a particular mentality about cars. They're always asking about second-hand value. Does this car have second-hand value? Are they going to be able to trade it after they've used it for a while and all of that? And, you know, when it comes to cars made in Nigeria cars, and I'm wondering, how are you going to make Nigerians change that mentality? Because it's not just the federal government that's guilty. We all are guilty at the end of the day. We're all driving cars from abroad. So How do we change that mentality? How do we prove to the Nigerians that cars made in Nigeria can have second-hand value?
So, like I mentioned, the quality is not the problem. We have a lot of top customers, at least for Nord, I'll speak for Nord, you know, who love our vehicles and they're always coming back to buy because of the quality, the durability, the reliability, and the cost effectiveness of our vehicles.
We're going to come to cost very soon, but continue.
So now, when the quality is there, now the question of second-hand, like you mentioned, the word second-hand, that is after the first person has bought it. Now, to have a second-hand market in Nigeria for Nigerian-made vehicles, you first need to have the first-hand market. Now, but we have a country where we buy about 500,000. It's a big, big market. No matter how small you look at Nigeria or talk about our economic issues, Nigerians still spend. Last year, we spent about 6% of our imports were vehicles and motorcycles. So that's about maybe 3.5 to 4 billion US dollars. That's the size of the market. But the sad story is that less than 3% of that market are brand new vehicles. And even lesser are vehicles made in Nigeria. So we need to, first of all, solve the problem, which can start from the government. Look at anywhere in the world. The Apple, Intel, Tesla, you have the government to support. The government has to be the biggest supporter, biggest investor of these industries in their early days. You cannot have the America you have today without the US government sponsoring and buying from these industries.
I know Tesla is one major example of that.
Tesla, Apple, Intel, all the biggest companies in America. When they were trying to win the USSR in this war, when the USSR launched Sputnik in 1958 and 1957, and they had to respond, and they created what we have as NASA today. They created young companies. That's where all these, like the likes of Intel and the rest, came about. Young companies who were winning billions of US dollars of contracts from the US government to develop that industry. That's why you have Silicon Valley today. So you have to, in the early days, support your country. Because if you don't, nobody else will. Then after the government has done that, just imagine, you know the impact it would have on our economy if the vehicles that the National Assembly bought and the vehicles that every parastatal in government buys are made in Nigeria vehicles. You know the amount of jobs it will create? Because
looking at the supplementary budget, and everyone's talking about that at this point, we're seeing about 2.5 billion there earmarked for car purchases. And I'm wondering, are you guys going to get any action from there?
So that's what I'm saying. So vehicles are needed. You know, we're not using horses anymore. So you need vehicles to move from point Alpha to Bravo.
Now, are you marketing to the government at all?
So if you want to buy vehicles, and I understand that is needed, I think it's what I'll call the low-hanging fruits. You know, just ensure that all the vehicles that you buy are vehicles made in Nigeria, because at that point you now create more jobs. You cannot keep exporting our jobs and create out of Nigeria, because when you buy fully built vehicles, you create no job in Nigeria. But for us, for example, we do maybe roughly over 100 units a year, but we have about 60 direct staff and another 100 plus indirect staff. I know people doing 5 times, 10 times more revenue than us, but because they bring in the vehicles from abroad, and they have probably less than 7, 8 staff. When you make things, you have to create jobs.
Break down the value chain for us when it comes to car manufacturing here.
Okay, I'm going to summarize it. So it starts from the idea, the concept. Okay, what do you want to create? So after that, you go into your R&D, which is one of the reasons why we set up an innovation and R&D center inside the university campus, one of the biggest in Africa. I think the first time in Africa. Set up a very big R&D center inside Unilag, because we didn't want to be doing R&D outside Nigeria, maybe in Germany or Thailand. Save the FX here in Nigeria. You know, provide that link between the industry and academia. So after the R&D, because you need to be able to compete and provide safe vehicles, so you need to continue to research and develop. Then after that, you go into the manufacturing, which is where I'll call it the supply chain, where you decide, okay, what do I buy? What do I make myself here? So you decide, okay, I'll buy this, I'll make this. Then after that, you move into the assembly line. So you make the vehicles. You know, that's where the vehicles are put together. Because all the things you've either made yourself, or, for example, we make our plastic parts ourselves, our grills ourselves, we buy the engines, we buy the steel, you know. Then you bring all those things to the assembly line, then you assemble them. After you assemble them, you do the testing to be sure that it is good enough for the market. What you did is good, and you put the warranty on it. Then after that, it goes to the showroom. Then after the showroom, you sell to the customers and you move to the after sales, which is where you need to have workshops and the rest. And Nord, for example, we have 14 after sales locations everywhere in this country, one of the widest. So when you buy our vehicles, you know that you will always get the after sales. That's why you can, I always tell people, when it comes to merit, we would always win. You can ask our customers, we would always win because we produce very good.
I'm talking about inputs at this point. We've all been talking about the Naira at this point, the FX, you know, distortions in the market at this time. And definitely you need inputs, and some of them are imported, definitely. Yeah. Talk to me about how the distortions in the FX market is impacting your production and pricing at the end of it, because all of these, you know, add to the price issue. I've heard many times you say, oh, this can be produced in Nigeria, that can be, but my problem is, when it comes to pricing, you're competing with the same price if you're importing. So I'm like, how do we find that balance there? Affordability.
No, so you asked two questions. Right. I don't know which one to answer first.
Both.
So, so first of all, we don't compete with the ones that we import. Our vehicles, at least for Nord, for the same quality, a lot of our customers can attest to this. For the same quality, you get a durable, affordable vehicle for half the price. So when you buy a Nord vehicle, you're getting that vehicle that you can get in Japan, for example, but this time around at half the price because we're using the same parts, the same quality, the same transmission, but because we make a lot of things here, a lot of the factors of production are in Nigeria, the price is really reduced. Now, so when it comes to pricing, no, we are like half the price for the same quality. Now, going back to your first question on the FX. Now, we source about 68, 67% of our parts in Nigeria. So we need to still get some parts from outside, and the main part of it is the steel, because we don't have the flat sheets in Nigeria.
Right.
So we have to import those sheets into Nigeria, and that, in my opinion, represents about maybe 40% of the value. So we need to get FX to do that. But we're working on some things to ensure that we're working with some other people to get.
So the FX distortions impact you?
Yes, I'm going there. Yeah. So we're working with some people, maybe in 3-4 years, you know, to work with the iron ore company, work with the Delta Steel, to be able to make our own steel here in Nigeria. And when we do that, the price of vehicles will drop by about 30%. But right now, we still have to source these parts from outside Nigeria, the steel, for example, which means we need to get the FX, which affects us because, and the biggest problem with this FX issue for us is that we cannot offer credit. This is the biggest problem. Why is, if we say, okay, this vehicle is 10 million naira, come and take this vehicle and pay over a period of time. Let's say, pay over a year. In a year's time, the value of that, because of the devaluation of the Naira, would be washed away. So you have more or less made a loss from selling on credit or selling with a prepayment plan. And I think that we have to find a solution to that because a vehicle is usually the second most expensive thing anybody will buy after a house.
Right.
So I think the right thing to do is to find a way to have a payment plan.
All right. Talk to me now. What would you like to see from the government right now to support this made in Nigeria industry? That's for cars. What would you like to see from the government? Because at the end of the day, we talk about, oh, the government has to lead and all of that. But I also want to know who is demanding more from this industry. Is it the individuals or the government? Which one? Who is demanding more? And what would you like to see from the government?
For my company, the biggest market is still the private sector. The banks, the transport companies, the real estate companies. The government is growing. We have some government contracts, like Ogun State government, for one, is a very big customer. The federal government, like the police. So, but still not compared to how much more we sell in the private sector. However, at the stage of the auto industry, those, between the government and the private sector, those that can champion it now is the government, because the industry is still very young. Nord is 7 years old. We can't compete with 100-year-old companies, 80-year-old companies. So we will need the government, like how it's done anywhere. Tesla did not get to where they are without the support of the US government. So we're going to need the government to do two things. Number one, buy from us. Create policies that would provide the incentive for people to manufacture vehicles more in Nigeria. Because right now, the incentive to manufacture more vehicles in Nigeria is not really there. It's more, people make vehicles more in Nigeria now, more from a place of patriotism. Because the rates, the tariff is almost non-existent, like there's no difference. There was a big difference in 2014 when the plan was started, but in 2020, it was washed away, which I think should be reversed, because this is a market that does between 3.5 to 5 billion US dollars a year. It's a market that can create millions and millions of jobs. It has to be supported. It has to be backed. And it is the government at this stage that has to back it.
Right. So what would you like to see when it comes to, incentives, at this point?
Okay.
We've talked about, supply side. There's also a demand side, because Nigerians are squeezed, at this point on all angles. We have a cost of living crisis at this point. What can be done, and how can they get that funding?
Okay, so I like the question a lot. We have a very vibrant auto industry with very brilliant people, dedicated entrepreneurs. Now, what we need the government to do is to increase tariff for brand new vehicles. Now, we made a mistake. I'll say a mistake. I'll call it a political mistake, where the tariff was increased in 2014. And in 2020, some people decided to fight it. And they say, oh, poor people are complaining because they cannot buy vehicles. And I asked them that, I felt that was just a way to just kill the entire industry, because they want to keep selling to Kumbo cars. So I've spoken to a couple of my colleagues in the auto industry and said, okay, let us go back to the government, which is what I hope they can hear me now, and say, okay, you know what? Make a policy that protects the poor people, the middle class. Don't increase the tariff for vehicles that are not brand new, for vehicles that are 4 cylinders. Increase the tariff, the levy actually. Increase the levy for brand new vehicles that are 2 years, 3 years old, for those that they can really afford it, and vehicles that are like V8 vehicles. Increase the levy. Then that levy, first of all, you now discourage people who want to buy vehicles just because of the brand. Because I've already assured you that the vehicles are as good, and most people that buy it know that they are good. The problem we have now is the branding. So if you want to buy a vehicle, even when you know that the quality is good enough, just for the branding's sake, okay, then buy it, but pay the levy. If you are buying a brand new vehicle or a V8 vehicle, then pay the levy. Then that levy would go to the NADDC, National Automotive Design and Development Council, which is our regulator and the agency responsible for developing the auto industry. Now, that levy, we talk about funding, is the money we're going to be using to, one, develop the auto industry, create R&D centers, a lot of things, one. Two, provide very affordable financing, loans, to authorize assemblers. Because we're competing with giants that have very, very affordable loans, credits. So provide it so that we can compete with the giants all over the world, and maybe very soon start exporting to Europe.
Right.
Provide this low interest rate to the assemblers, which is one side of the equation, which is the supply side. So we can supply better and do better like the rest of the world.
So much.
The other side is now the demand side, which is you now provide that same low interest loan to those who want to buy the vehicles. So you are solving a problem from the supply side. Suppliers, which is we, have the money to do a lot with low interest rates. We also have people who want to buy. So you want to buy a brand new vehicle now. You just say, okay, you can buy it, but if you buy a brand new Nigerian-made vehicle, you have a very, very attractive interest rate. You will see everybody will start to buy these vehicles. And over maybe 3, 4, 5 years, you have to be patient. You now have what you now call the second-hand market. Because people, after they've used it, they love it. Then it'll be a second-hand market. So much to unpack there. Regrettably, we've run out of time at this time. Thank you so much, Mr. Ajayi Oluwatobi, Chairman and CEO, Nord Automobiles Limited. It was great having your perspective today. Thank you. I hope everybody buys Nigeria going forward. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I will take a quick break now. When we come back, Commodities Market Update is next. Do stay with us.